You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Doing It for the Exposure, the show that aims to promote those that promote others. I'm your host, Mannequin Blue, and today's special guest is comedian and actor Alex Byrne.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's interesting. It's so strange to be on the other side of a talk show. Usually I'm the one that I'm my host, and now I'm like, someone wants to speak to me. It's such a nice turnaround.
You're seeing the other side of the curtain.
I know, it's crazy.
What happens? So Alex, you're a comedian and an actor. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into that?
Yeah, I was actually, like I was a teenager and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I didn't have the first notion of what I wanted to do. So naturally, when you don't know what you want to do as a teenager, you do a business course in college. Everyone who does a business course in college doesn't know what they want to do. So what happened was, it was actually like my last business college. I was like, I don't want to do this. I did my exams, otherwise I think it would have been disowned. But I just said, I really want to act. Like I'd never done anything before. Like even as a kid or a teenager, I was terrified of being on stage. I was terrified of acting. Never even crossed my mind. But then I was like, I really want to do this. So when I left college, I got my degree and was working. I did some part-time courses in the Gaiety. So I did some part-time acting courses and I did that and had a lot of fun. And I felt like I was kind of lost at the end of it. I was like, well, I don't know kind of what to do. Like, I mean, I was like, I don't know where to go next or what I should kind of try acting wise. And I spoke to some people, like some actors and some teachers, and they all said, you should do comedy. I was like, really? They were like, yeah, like, you're a funny guy. So I did the part-time acting course, and that was part-time acting course. I'm repeating myself now. First rule, don't repeat yourself. But I did the part-time comedy course then. And from there, I just started doing comedy and going around in the country, and I performed in a few different countries like the US and Canada and stuff, and kept up the acting as well, and I'm hosting a chat show now too during the pandemic because I'm not allowed to go outside and play and do those things anymore.
It's a sad time to be a performer.
It's such a sad time. Well, I talk to some performers, it's always a sad time to be a performer, but this is particularly sad. It's like post-performance blues, but forever.
It's not supposed to be real.
Because I always say, like, when you've done a show or something like that, post-performance blues are real. Like I've done like a run of a play that was 2 weeks or something. Like you've done it, and you're like, that was great, and then you think, okay, I can't wait until Sunday. I've done the way through, and it's finished, and I get to relax. As soon as midday on Sunday hit, so you're like, I'm so bored. I don't know what to do with myself today. So I suppose for anybody listening who isn't involved in arts and entertainment, like picture that, like for 10 months.
Oh, it's just 10 months of what am I doing with my life, and then like 2 months of this is great.
Oh God! And what am I doing with my life? Is I'm sure some people out there know in podcast world is that's quite a common theme in your late 20s as well. What am I doing?
Oh, I'm gonna be so depressed.
You can tell why I'm a comedian, can't you? I'm great. How would you talk to the comedian? Oh God, I feel terrible.
But yeah, so yeah, you mentioned that you have your own talk show, and that's kind of, I suppose that's the huge reason why I wanted to have you on the show in the first place, but we'll get to that in a second. Like, obviously, I want to have artists on the show, but you have your own show that is of the same thesis as this show, which is you interview other artists and you promote them.
Yeah, so I suppose that kind of happened as we went into the second lockdown. I love the way we numbered these, by the way. I mean, when did you meet? Well, it was the third lockdown when we met. I was doing this in the second lockdown, and by the third lockdown, I was doing this. It's like a play or something like that. By the third act, I really feel like the characters just went in a different direction. Everyone just had a mental breakdown. So what happened was, I was doing a thing during the first lockdown where, like, I Tommy Cooper joke with like Tommy Cooper's my favorite comedian, and I was doing one of his jokes live every day. And it was only when we hit a second lockdown, a friend of mine messaged me going, "Hey, you know, if you're going to be doing the jokes again, I'd love to see it. Like, I'd love to see you do more stuff. I really enjoyed it last time." I kind of thought to myself, well, you know, I kind of did that last time. I don't really want to do it again. And I'm like, what should I do instead? And it was actually quite a quick transition. I was sitting there. It was a Friday morning. I was in work at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I was like, what could I do? I was like, maybe I could try and do a talk show. I don't know how to do a talk show. And I was like, And I was like, we can't do a talk show. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, the talk show wouldn't work. And then a few minutes later, I was like, what would I call a talk show? I was like, what would I call it? It's like, yeah, I call it the chats. Yeah, but stupid name. We wouldn't call it that. So I was sitting there like, you know, I wouldn't even know anyone to have on. And I was like, but who would I have on if I had a talk show? And then at that stage at 10 o'clock, I think, what will I do? You know, a talk show might be fun. From that, by 11 o'clock, I was texting people I knew, comedians and actors, going, hey, I'm starting a talk show next Thursday. Do you want to be on? So it kind of just went from there. And like, we've been running now since, I think, late October we started. So I think we've done 12 episodes now. So, and we go live every Thursday at 7 o'clock on Facebook.
Brilliant. No, I just love that you kind of had to talk yourself into it. You kind of did a roundabout way of, no, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Okay, I'm going to do it.
It's like, I'll show him.
I'll show all those naysayers who are me.
That bit in The Simpsons when Homer stands up. You people have held me back long enough. I'm doing a talk show.
So what kind of things then do you talk about on your show?
Well, I suppose, like, you know, it's always so nice because people always message me before the show and like they're so happy to be on, and it's always, and I really appreciate people say, like, you know, what do I need to prepare or what do I need to talk about? I'm always like, well, look, I mean, you don't need to prepare anything. I always say the one thing I always prepare is, the only question I have is I ask people, how has the pandemic affected you? Like, you know, you work in this area of entertainment, you work in this kind of artistic industry, this particular sector. How have you personally been affected? And that's the only thing I prepare, because, you know, I find that like if I prepare one question like that, you know, it's all I have gone in, you know, kind of starts the conversation. But it gives it a more kind of natural flow. Like, you know, I don't want to be sitting there listening and going, yeah. Oh, I have to ask this question next. Yeah. Oh, but what do you think about this? You know, I suppose it's interesting in the sense that it's a very casual kind of conversation, and it almost kind of forces me more to listen, because, you know, I have to listen very intently to make sure I have the correct response. I really enjoy the conversations, but I have to listen so intently. It's like, I have to listen to this person. But that's what my mates always say. Like, when my mates first watched it, like, they watched it and they were like, oh, I watched your new show. I was like, oh, what did you think? And they were like, it's not a comedy. What's that all about? I'm like, yeah, it's not a comedy. It's a talk show. I told you it was a talk show. You didn't say it was. You never said it wasn't a comedy talk show. Like, no, it's not a comedy talk show. I just talk to people. They're like, but you're not making jokes and, you know, going blah, 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 blah. They're saying you're sitting there and you're listening to people talk. I'm like, yeah. Like, why don't you do that in real life? But it's great as well, because I'm saying to like my like friends that I'm texting, I'm like, how are you getting on during the pandemic? Because it is horrible, and it's a sad kind of thing for people to go through 3 times. And I say to people, like, how are you getting on? They're like, oh God, you know, I'm very lonely. I wish I had someone to talk to. I was like, you need to set your talk show. I said, your phone won't stop. I says, I talk to more people now than when I was allowed to see them. I managed to, in an attempt where we're supposed to be cocooning, I managed to make myself popular. I just want to go back to like teenage me and be like, it's okay, you get there.
I know exactly what you mean. I think I feel the same way. Like, I talk to more people now than I ever talked to before. And I've cut back. Like, we've cut back to a bi-weekly show. It used to be a weekly show, and I still feel like, oh God, I have to talk to loads of people.
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing that, like, it's like a diet or something. Like, your friend texts you like, oh, hey, how you doing today? You respond, sorry, I'm trying to cut back.
Yeah.
I'm on a diet. Just leave me alone.
But it does get to that point though, because I'm at the stage now that where, like, I talk to so many people on the show, and because I do other podcasts, I jump in on other podcasts as well. So
yes.
I talk to so many people during the week that by the time a friend messages me, I'm just like, oh, I'm burnt out. I'll get back to them later.
I know the exact feeling. Like, I'm like that meme. It's like, you know, if I respond to your text, it's either, you know, 5 minutes or 3 to 5 working days.
Yeah.
Because there's no in between. But I think that's a unique thing, like, you know, for yourself and for myself, like the shows that we do, like there's always, I suppose, such an aura around artists, like whether it's a musician or an actor or a comedian, like there's such an aura around them of, you know, like people, like if somebody's walking down the road and they see something getting shot with a camera, they automatically stop and go, oh my God, what's going on here? And like you and I, like we'll talk to like more artists in a day than most people will like in a month. And that's why I kind of wanted to do the show as well, to show, like, you know, although the pandemic has been horrible for everyone, you know, this is a whole industry of people that have been completely like wiped out and affected. So it's almost like it humanizes the artists, and it lets the kind of public see, you know, these are kind of real people who have been affected by this as well. It kind of, you know, draws back the curtain or something like that, you know, and lets people see what's behind the artist. And it's very kind of interpersonal, I suppose, because it's a conversation in front of the world.
Yeah, and it makes sense as well because, like, you know, we as artists, we kind of have this, I suppose we put up this facade about ourselves as well, where we only want people to see when we're doing like cool projects and when we're doing well. And
Yeah.
and so the whole thing about lockdown hitting and we're all out of work and we're all just sitting here kind of like, yeah, we're working on things behind the scenes and that, but because we're not out there, you know, in your face, we're kind of just going, all right, what do I do now? Nobody knows about me anymore. I've disappeared. So it is good to do things like this to show people, look, we're still here, we're still working away. You just kind of can't see us at the minute.
Yeah, and it's nice just, I suppose, to talk to like people who have the same interest, because like when it comes to the comedy and it comes to the acting, like as much as I love being on stage and doing the show, like a lot of the fun is, you know, going to the show, or, you know, before you go on stage, or the rehearsals. Like that's great because everybody's in the same boat and everybody's doing the same thing. So it's been quite nice, I suppose, to kind of reconnect with people and, you know, be able to have proper conversations, and to be able to like yourself, meet new people with similar interests and have those conversations too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing about it as well, is that a lot of the time you would have artistic friends that you would only see maybe once or twice a year at events. Or, you know, you might see them more often, you might see them all the time, but only at events. And so it's kind of weird going from that to lockdown and then not seeing anyone.
Exactly. I tell you what, though, I'm happy we have this technology. Could you imagine if it was 20 years ago? Everyone on the block of your phones just like, what are you doing?
Everybody's just hanging their paintings out the windows going, look, I did something.
Screaming at I'm screaming at people can't by my window. Do you want to hear a joke? He's walking his dog, and I told you yesterday, no. I'm like, all right, Dal, see you later.
I know, it's so funny as well because, you know, for people like yourself who are comedians, usually when you meet somebody new, like in a pub or whatever, and they say, oh, what do you do? And you say, I'm a comedian. They always say, tell me a joke.
Oh, every single time.
And like, I know people who are comedians who absolutely hate that. They're like, I'm not going to perform on demand. But I'd say at this point, comedians are like, please let me tell you a joke.
Yeah, it is. It's sort of complete 180, like in the sense that it's like, hey, so you heard any jokes? Like, but you know, it's almost one of those, like, you're right, you're in the bar. It's like, oh, what do you do? I'm a comedian. Oh, tell me a joke. Yeah, sure. What do you do? Oh, I'm an accountant. Okay, here's my, you know, P60. Go through it there. You know? But I almost say it's like a superpower almost, because, you know, when you say like go to like your local shop, like there's a Century down the road where I'm good friends with one of the managers, like, and the good thing about being a comedian is, like, beforehand, they might have been like, oh, hey, what's up? How you getting on? Oh, well, you know, my dog got run over last week. Jeez, all right. But when you're a comedian, you go in and you say, how you getting on? He goes, oh, well, my dog ran over last week. But first, let me tell you a joke. So there's that side of it too. It's like a superpower. People don't want to give you bad news. They don't want to hear a joke or tell a joke. There's no such thing as bad news anymore. And I think that's great. And I think that, you know, a time like this as well, where it's so unpredictable and it's so hard, like, it's so important to have, I suppose, you know, to be able to have the ability to have a laugh and to be able to have a joke with people. It's so important.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And I think we need it more now than we did before.
I hope so.
You know, we're in son of lockdown and nothing's happening.
Oh, and just the numbered lockdowns, it's incredible. And like, it's so funny when you listen. It's like, you know, it's like, lockdown 3 and, you know, level 5 tier fairy red. What?
What was it a friend of mine said on another show? He said it was like 2 lock, 2 down.
I think my favorite one, and it was just, it's you can't beat the classics like Lockdown 2, Electric Boogaloo.
What would you call this one then? Lockdown 3 Parabellum or
Lockdown 3, so
oh, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
I know. Look, that's my motto. I know which side I chose. but yeah, I mean, as good and on as it is, like doing like the live gigs. I mean, doing the online, it's great. But we miss the live gigs. Like you miss the audience being there and the audience experience and the stuff like that as well. Because that's kind of the roots of it. Like that's even stage actors. Like I've seen people work on screen projects, but the stage I find so much fun. Like even when people go out to the theater, there's still such a big oh, well, we're going to the theater. It's still a big event, I think, for people.
Yeah, definitely. Like I have a friend who, just going back a ways at this point now, but he was on the first episode of the show and he's a theater director. So we used to always go, anytime he was directing a new play or anything, we would always go for like opening night. And it's the whole thing. It's not just the going to the play, but then it's, the sticking around and having the glass of wine after and getting to know all the other actors. Like it really is an experience.
And like I suppose as well, like everybody's going to be like-minded there as well. Like, because you go in, you're doing a comedy show, for example, everybody here is interested in comedy. Everybody here is a comedian. So you could have quite similar conversation. You'll joke about gigs, the gigs that went well, the gigs that didn't go so well. And, it's something really nice about it because you can have these conversations with, 90% of the people you talk to.
Yeah, it's nice to have somebody who you can say, oh, let me tell you about this awful experience I had. And they go, oh my God, I had the same.
Yeah. it's like talking to an ex. Let me tell you about this awful breakup I had. Same.
Yeah. But it's good though, because it does beat talking to somebody who's not kind of in that industry and you go, oh, I had this horrible time at this gig or whatever, and they just go, yeah, I can't relate.
But it's an escape though as well, because unless you're at a level where you're earning money for working full time, you're doing it as a hobby. Like it's an industry that's so unique in the sense that a lot of people are doing it and not getting paid unless you're at a particularly very high level. And like I love that in the sense, there's so many people doing it with that. So it is an escape. If you have a bad day or something like that, you can go onto a stage or you can work on this piece or something like that. And it's going to let you, for the short time you're doing it, feel really good and feel really happy. You're like, this is where I need to be. This is my happy space. This is where I'm comfortable.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think it does really help when you're loving what you're doing and you enjoy what you're doing, and it is an escape for you, because there's far too many jobs in the industry where they just want you to do it for the exposure,
Oh my God. Wait, I mean, it's what you mean, like doing it for the exposure?
Doing it for the exposure.
We're breaking the fourth wall, folks. No, but that is very true. Like I know I spoke to a comedian who's in New York at the moment on the chats recently, and she was basically, how much do you get paid for doing like things in comedy here? So, well, look, you might get paid, you might get this, you might get that. And she's like, I get paid this and this for a gig. She goes, like, you need to tell the place, look, I'm doing this, but I need to live as well. That's the thing. Like, I mean, and I suppose that's a thing for artists. Like, too often we hear the expression starving artist, and you hear about people who went to be whatever kind of industry it was, and they basically had no money. They were living in their car and they were just doing their gigs and stuff. It's incredible commitment for people willing to go through all that to maybe that 1% chance that you will be successful and make it.
And this is it, like, because it's hard. It's so tough to do gig after gig where you're not getting paid. But then, of course, you're doing those gigs and you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, what if there's someone else there who wants to hire me and they will pay me? And so it's kind of a double-edged sword where you don't want to be doing all these free gigs, but you also feel like you have to kind of push yourself further.
Yeah, like you never know who you're going to meet. Like, for example, I did a gig out in UCD, comedy gig back in 2017, and I was only still relatively new to comedy, but I was doing a gig, and as part of my act, I do magic as part of my act too. Just a bit of silly magic, a few jokes and stuff. And there was a guy I was performing with that night who basically said, "Look, can I talk to you after the show?" So when I spoke to him, and he said, "Look, I work as an entertainer." He goes, "I saw your act. I think it's really good. If you want, I can get you work as a professional entertainer doing like, corporate events and, kids parties and stuff like that." And that was, these are going on nearly 4 years ago. Since then, like him and I have become good friends. He's basically, he's a very good friend of mine. He's basically been like my manager, and he's been able to get me kind of work and like, good paying work when it's available. Like I've been able to do anything for the past year or so, but that's again the point of, I could have said, I don't fancy doing that gig. I went and I did that gig for free, and through that, I met this guy, and we've worked together on lots of different things, and I've gotten lots more experience with him. So you're quite right with the double-edged sword. You never know who's going to be there and who's going to see you.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's, and I hate to, because I hate saying to people, oh, you should do the free gigs, but I usually do tell people, if you're starting out, don't leave yourself broke, but do some of the free gigs, because you have to build connections somehow. Like you're not going to build connections sitting at home and just posting on Instagram. Like that helps, but you do need, if you want the work, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you have to be seen to be basically. It's the old school way of putting the grind in. Like you have to be seen. Like you can't be sitting there messaging place like, hey, I want to perform at your place. It's like a lot of people go see a show and then they perform at the place as well. I mean, I love the way we're having this discussion now. I'd be happy with going to see any type of gig at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll pay to perform on the stage. You don't have to pay me. I'll pay you.
Tonight we have a man painting a wall for 3 hours on stage. I'm in.
It's like we could do 2 shows out of that. You watching the man paint or watching the paint dry. They're both very entertaining.
Oh, I know. I miss the performing and I miss the going out.
Yes. It's just such a different world, and like it's always great, that when you have the last show as well, although you do, like I said, get the blues, it's that night out, like the final night out where you're all celebrating and stuff. It's such a nice feeling. Everyone's got such a buzz, and it's a real it's kind of like it's almost like a drug. You get such a high off it. There's no other feeling you get that compares to it whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's partly why you get such a come down at the end of it then, like you were saying, your post-performance blues, because it's like you get such a high and then you go, oh, what's happening now?
Yeah, I don't want to go back into the real world. I want to go back to the acting world. I want to stay here. Just leave me on the stage. I'll be fine.
I don't like this hangover.
And again, we're in the midst of a 10-month hangover that now, where it's just 10 months of like, well, when are we going to get to perform again? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I was cast in a short film last February, okay? Last February we still haven't shot it.
Oh, no.
Like, it's going on like next, I think we were supposed to shoot it last March and we're shooting it this March. And I was saying to the director, I think it's like a 10-15 minute piece. I says, look, you're working on it for a year. This better be a motion picture.
Yeah.
They're going to expect something. Worked on it for 12 months. How long is it? 10 minutes, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right though, because I've done short films in the past, not in them, but like as a makeup artist and stuff. And they do, even the ones that are about 10-15 minutes long, they take about a year just to edit.
They do. Like, I mean, and that is one part now. I mean, I have respect for anyone who does that. Like, I'm more part of, the writing and, acting side. When it comes to editing, I saw a friend of mine, we were working on a project together. I saw him edit something once and I was like, I am never editing something. I do not have the patience for that or the skill. More so the second one. But no, look, massive respect for that, because I know a lot of people think it's just, people go and point cameras and that's the thing. Not like the amount of afterwork that has to be done with that, sound and, editing is just, post-production, that's what I'm looking for. Post-production, it's a daunting task, and my hat goes off to anyone who can do it. It's an incredible skill to have.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like I think I've done maybe two small video segments for the podcast, and this is completely why I don't do video podcasts. But I think we did one before where it was like a question and answer, because a lot of people were writing in asking questions, and I said, right, I'll just do a video and I'll answer all of them at once and it'll be fine. And it took about, I think it was like 6 hours to edit 15 minutes worth of video, and I was just like, I'm not doing video podcasts. I'm just not doing it.
See, that's why I'm just like, I go live at Le Chat when we're doing Thursday 7 days. So always a live show. I'm like, I'm not editing this. Look, whatever happens in this hour. It's all live and it's all uncensored. Let's just go. And see, that's another thing I love as well. Like, people say, like, what should I talk about? So what can I talk about? I'm like, look, this is your your time. Like, I mean, you talk about whatever you want. Like, you've been affected by this pandemic, stuff has been shut down. Like, you talk about whatever you want, and I like doing that. I like having, you know, kind of no restrictions for people like that. You know, God knows there's restrictions everywhere bloody else. But on my show, there's no restrictions. We don't have a level. We're level 0. Everywhere else is level 5.
Yeah, that's I kind of feel the same way doing this show as well. And I know that like to peel back the curtain a bit, I do get people to send me in just kind of talking points and things that they want to talk about. But that's more purely because a lot of people who come on the show are very, very nervous and they don't know what to talk about. And at least if I have it written down, what they said they wanted to talk about, I can kind of go, what about this? And point to that. And here's another thing that you want. And so they go, oh yeah, that's great.
I think that's one of my problems. I'm too shy. I never have enough to say.
You hardly said anything at all.
I know. That's why if anybody's listening to this, before the show, you were saying, so well, you know, we could fill the podcast with whatever you want. I was like, let's try conversation. Words usually.
I mean, I'm personally a fan of the half-hour juggling segment, but
now and next on the show, we will be playing a half-an-hour game of who could stay quiet the longest. No video, just audio.
I lose now, Jenga.
It's like a half an hour goes through and it's like, sorry, I forgot to press record. Can we do it again?
Don't even joke about that. I have to check that I'm actually recording now.
You are. I can see it. Don't worry. you were like alluding to yourself there. It's like, you know, some people come on the show and, you know, they're so nervous. We didn't know it was the host. It was the host going like, oh God, I really don't want to do this.
Are you kidding me? Every 2 weeks now, it's a pep talk before I go on the mic. I worked in entertainment before the pandemic, but I never talked to anybody. I just made balloons and handed them out, and they would, you know, that counts as entertainment. But
that's like the friendliest balloon modeler ever. Hi, can I? There you go.
Yeah, here you go. Go away.
But you probably the same as me, because I've worked doing balloon modeling as well, and the greatest part of that is like, okay, cool, everybody, you know, form a line, please, form a line and make your balloons. All of a sudden, you are surrounded in a line because of people going, make me this, make me this, make me this.
Yeah.
And I always my favorite is that one kid where there's about 30 kids waiting for a balloon, and some kid comes up and he's like, can I have 2?
Yeah.
Yes, when everyone else has one.
No, my favorite one is when, you know, the grandmother comes up in the line and she's like, I need 6 balloons for my grandkids who aren't here.
Oh God. They aren't here. Yeah, well, that's a bit of a you problem.
And they all want, like, you know, really complicated things. They all want helicopters or something.
I always just limit. Look, you can have people always say to me at my gigs, like, the kids will come up like, what can you make? I'm like, I can make swords, I can make dogs, I can make giraffes, I can make cats that look like dogs, I can make dinosaurs that look like dogs, I can make horses that look like dogs.
Do you know what though? Stay with that. Just stay with, because I made the mistake of learning all the big grand things that you can do. Like I learned all the Spider-Man and, you know, the whatever it is that's popular, Paw Patrol and everything. Just stay with the dogs and the swords. Don't go any bigger.
Yeah, I was given that advice fairly early in my career. Like I used to be like, I went to a kid, was like, oh, what do you want me to make you? I was pulled aside and was like, never say that.
Yeah.
Never say that. Just go up and say, hi, do you want this or do you want this?
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
and if they say I want something else, repeat the question.
I was being like really full of myself one time at it was some community festival, and I had just learned how to do, you know, the Hulk hand.
Yes. And
I had thought it was kind of a slow day, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this Hulk hand and I'm gonna try and turn it into an infinity gauntlet. So I did that, and it took like, you know, 20 minutes or whatever, and I figured it out, and I put all the balloons in, and just as I had finished the thing, 6 kids walked up and they all wanted one.
Oh no.
I was like, oh, why do I do this to myself?
Oh. So much for your quiet day. It's like, there's no one here. It's like 6 people turn up. It's like, uh-oh.
And that's always the way. 'Cause you can never judge a gig. You always say to yourself, if it's slow, I'll do the bigger things.
Yeah.
And if it's busy, I'll do the quicker things. But the problem is you get to a gig and it's slow.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, I'll do some of the bigger things because I have time. But then the kids just like, they just kind of mitosis or something.
Yeah.
And they multiply and they come out of nowhere. And then you're stuck making, 50 infinity gauntlets.
Oh God. But I suppose that's the thing as well. Like, and that was the same with me very early in my career. But I was like, oh, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this for this long, and that's going to happen there. But it's a case of you never know how it's going to go, as you said, until it happens. Like, you could do something, and it all depends on what feels right. Like, and I'm always so the worst when it comes to these gigs. I'm so relaxed. Like, I'll arrive and I'm like, so what are you going to do? It's like, oh, look, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry. In 3 hours, I'll do something. Don't worry. It'll happen. And then at the end, they're like, that went well. It's like, I know, look, because I never planned out. Like, some people are very like, what are you going to do for this half an hour to this half an hour? What are you going to do here, here, and here? It's like, look, let me know what you need me to say, then I'll do my show. It's one of those things. It's always funny, but look, it's entertaining. Like, I'll admit, I've missed it the last year because it's a job, but it's a fun job to do. Like, it's great.
Yeah, it is. And do you know what I love about it as well? You're always somewhere different.
Yes. It's always quite fun, like, going into like these different places, like when you're, say, like, hired to work in a company building, all of a sudden, like, you're going through like the backstage part of this like company that you've known, and you're like, Jesus, I shouldn't be in here. This is cool.
Am I allowed to be in here?
You realize you're in the wrong building.
Oh, I've done that. Google. There's about 4 Google buildings all on the same street.
I've done that. Google. Oh, you're right. It is on the internet. Girl wanders into the wrong building, makes balloons, causes infinity gauntlet build up. Oh, there's you. now host talk show. Oh, see, there's you.
Yeah.
Girl was quoted as saying, I was doing it for the exposure. Oh, very good.
Oh yeah, we do have fun.
We do. Look, it's great, and like it's a job that no 2 days are the same. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. When it's good, it's great.
Oh, absolutely. When it's good, you can't beat it. But look, I just hope we can go back to it soon. I suppose that's been the one big frustrating takeaway from this. Like, for the likes of you and me, we don't know we can go back to do what we want to do. That's the most frustrating part. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, even when it comes back, is it going to be the same? Or are we going to have to adjust the way we probably will have to adjust the way we were doing things before, because I can't imagine it'll straight away go back to the way it was.
I don't think we both kind of went, oh yeah.
This has gone a bit deep.
My big takeaway from it is, though, and this happened like when I was fortunate enough to do a couple of gigs last year, like when we weren't that strict. I don't know, we were level like 3.6 or whatever, or something like that. You could go somewhere as long as you carried a €15 meal or something like that on your person at all times or something. I don't know. I had bleach in the glove compartment. I don't know what it was. All I know is I was there. But what happened was I was like, oh great, comedy, this is cool. First gig in months. And right before I got on stage, I was like, how the hell do I do this again? It's like a muscle. I hadn't worked it out in so long. I'm like, I can't remember how this works.
Oh, it's like learning how to ride a bike, as long as you don't forget.
Exactly. And as long as you cycle that bike within 5 kilometers of your home.
With bleach in the basket.
Bleach in the basket and a €15 meal attached to the bell.
Just because I don't want to finish up the show without, all the socials and stuff. So where is the best place for people to follow you and your own show as well?
Well, the best place for people to follow myself, and I suppose my main place I'm active, is on Facebook. I haven't quite gone onto the Instagram yet because, I'm nearly 30. I'm not that stage. And it's a case of, so my show is called The Chats. Like, it's quite similar to your own show. It's for creative people to come on. It's a show I set up for, actors, musicians, comedians, and everything in between, basically. Everybody involved with the arts industry to come on and discuss how they've been affected by the pandemic and what's been going on. And we go live on Facebook every Thursday from 7 to 8 Irish time. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to check it out, if you want to hear more of me, I'd be amazed if you did. But it's a case of if you'd like to check out my show, it's like, sorry, we've already heard you talk for about 3 days. But if you guys would like to check out the show, and if anybody's listening to this who'd like to even come on the show as well, it's Le Chats on Facebook, at Le Chats Talk Show. I mean, if you guys want to go on and have a look, I'm always happy to have new people on the show if you're interested. And yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely love to see you guys there. And I suppose that's all I can say. It's the best place to find me. And apart from this show, I've really enjoyed being on this show. This is the other place to find me. It's been absolutely great.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to be, now that we know that you exist, we're going to be pushing your show as well, because it's essentially the same idea. It's promoting artists, and that's what we set out to do with this. And so it's nice to see somebody else doing it. It takes the pressure off me a little bit.
You should totally promote Le Chats, like, you know, it's essentially Le Chat is essentially the same idea as this, just not done as well.
Oh, I don't know now. In fairness, like I was kind of having a look at your show and going, God, he has, 3 people on a week. How does he have the energy for that? And I do 1 person every 2 weeks.
Please upload this part with just no context.
Yeah.
You made me sound like some sort of fiend. But you're on my show now next month as well.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Payback's a bitch.
Oh God.
See, I have to be professional on this show.
I love the way it's like a spoiler in front of us. Like, I have to be professional on this show, but when I'm on your show, you have to be professional. Yeah. And I'm like, you'd think that, wouldn't you?
All right. Before I laugh myself to death, is there anything that you would love to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't know. It's a very good question. I suppose we've talked. I mentioned that I'm a comedian, didn't I?
Once or twice.
No, just apart from that, like, I mean, the chats is where I am, the Chats Talk Show, Thursdays 7 to 8, live on Facebook. Apart from that, no, I think we've had a really good chat, and I've really enjoyed being on the show. So thank you very much for having me on.
Oh yeah, thanks for agreeing to be on. I was like super excited when I saw that you were doing a show, and I was like, I have to have him on the show and promote him.
You're not the only show in this town, partner.
Yeah. We're gonna make a posse.
But instead of like having a duel on the street, we just decide to be friends and talk to each other.
Yeah, and promote everybody.
Oh, I like your idea of having a posse, by the way.
Yeah.
What would we call it?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to come up with a name by the time you come onto the chats.
Yeah, this is too much pressure for on the spot.
For the first time ever, this is a worldwide exclusive. I will prepare a second question for the chats. My first question is always, my only question is always, how have you been affected by the pandemic? But now the second question will be, what are we calling our posse? So this is a worldwide exclusive for me as well.
Yeah. How about the fighting mongooses?
The fighting mongooses, I love it. And why did you come up with the name? Well, fighting mongooses, podcast, that whole relationship.
Yeah, it just seemed a good fit. Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Honestly, I haven't laughed this much in a while. So, your comedy is on point.
Oh, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. And thank you again for having me on. I'm looking forward to having yourself on the chats as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. And we'll be pushing that too.
Thank you very much. Not as much as I've been pushing it here.
Yeah. People can see me on the other side of it.
I know, we're going to do a complete role reversal.
Oh, no, honestly, I can't wait.
I can't wait either. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this episode of Doing It for the Exposure and would like to hear more in the future, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at DIFTE Podcast. You can also check out our stream on nerdtoknowmedia.com. We stream bi-weekly on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.